Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Literally a movie that came out right at the end of the year at Christmas. A lot of people were anticipating it because it looked like they were doing a different art style, but it's been 10 years since the last Puss in Boots movie. It's been almost damn near a decade since the last Shrek movie as well.
Yeah.
This movie came out and people who do nothing but complain about movies even loved it. It moved the Grinches of the cinematic world. And in 2 weeks, it's out on VOD. I appreciate that because it costs way less to purchase this movie so I can play it for my family than buying everybody tickets. And it is a blast, Zach. I don't know how you felt about this one, but I'm obviously a really big Shrek fan. I love Antonio Banderas, obviously. So him coming in to do Puss in Boots again, I thought was really great. And I thought they were able to elevate it to another level.
Yeah, I mean, I think I grew tired of the Shrek franchise around the last couple of them. Like, I love the first couple Shreks. That's the thing. It's the third is definitely a step down, and the fourth is another step down. But Puss in Boots is like a great character. I think he's just a really fun creation of, like, you know, the mixture of this sweetness and this cuteness with this, like, you know, energetic and like daring, violent energy. It's a very fun idea, and they're able to do a lot with it. It just feels like a gift that keeps on giving. I do remember not loving the Puss in Boots spinoff that came out 11 years ago, but this one is really delightful. This one's really fun and sweet and just thought-felt. I don't know. They're packaging a movie about accepting the inevitability of death into a kid's film, which is really cool and out there. And I think it's just full of these like little delightful asides, all these jokes that maybe it's just having a break from the Shrek universe, or maybe it is that the jokes are just a little bit more refined this time around. But like the fairy tale reference stuff all worked for me this go around. It's one of those movies where you're sitting there and you hear a voice and it's like, oh, Olivia Colman. Oh, Ray Winstone. Right. Oh, Florence Pugh. Yeah. And I was just happy to hear so many people. John Mulaney getting a part in this too.
Pretty decent.
I think it just like made me laugh more than I expected it to. There's lots of little things that they sneak in there that are definitely a little more adult skewing. I think the animation style like worked really well and didn't feel like too much of a departure from the more realistic Shrek style. Like it still kind of feels the same. It's just more in the actiony moments that you get some of that visual flair and the almost like Spider-Verse influenced color splotches. But I thought this one was really good. It surprised me. What did you think about it?
Oh, I thought it was fantastic. I'm going to raise what you said about the way it talks about death. I love the way it talked about legacy. With all of the movies that we had last year, having a movie where this is a cat who is so egotistical, as they say in the movie, he didn't just stand up his own wedding. The other person didn't show up because he knew that it was only going to be about him. And I like how they were able to break down the idea that this ego that he has, in a year where we have Top Gun Maverick, in a year where we have a lot of Marvel movies that are, you know, it's all about the legacy and what they're able to continue, for someone to just be like, it's not about that. This had more of an Irish Banshees element here where you realize it's more about the people around him. And I like how they have that for every single character. You had mentioned Florence Pugh, who comes in with a mix on the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, who are hunting for this last wish, right? Looking for a family as they are one. I like the voice work that was done with everybody else, especially Guillen, I think is his name. Yeah, Harvey Guillen.
Harvey Guillen, my boy from What We Do in the Shadows.
Talk about him. He absolutely killed it in voice acting. This is his first.
He's so
he
good.
Needs more.
Yeah.
He is incredible.
I mean, he's just got this like really sweet energy to him that I think works very well in the way that he's cast here. I don't know. I think he's a delightful addition and just delightful generally.
Yeah, he's fantastic. But I'm going to keep it a buck with you, dude. Is it the best animated movie of the year?
Ooh, that's a good question. This was a really good year for animated movies. We just got another big contender for the Oscar in Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio at the end of the year for Netflix.
I really like that one.
I think we're both extremely big fans of Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, which maybe you don't consider to be animated, but at least the Academy does. So I don't know. It's a tough race out there. I also really like the Sea Beast from earlier this year, or last year, I should
Underrated.
say, on Netflix. Yeah, one of the underrated picks from this year. I personally would still go Marcel above Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. But what about you?
Dude, Marcel, Pinocchio, Puss in Boots. We got another one we're about to cover in a little bit.
Yeah.
I would take all of those. We usually have a year where it's like the Pixar movie's going to win, the Disney movie's going to win, and then there's like the one that
we're completely overlooking Turning Red, which is also incredible.
Dude, there's also a new what's it, the Secret of the Cows. That whole cartoon saloon has another movie that's just been sitting on Netflix with the dragon one. It is such a stacked year for animation. We are spoiled, which leads me to a question I have to ask you. You had mentioned Spider-Verse, and you're right. Have we not just become the inverse of the Pixar thing again? Pixar got to a point where their animation was so pristine that anybody trying 2D or anything else was looked down upon. Spider-Verse has happened, right? And there were movies before Spider-Verse. But after Spider-Verse, Mitchell's, there's a couple even more that I'm blanking. I'm sure the chat will help us out. And in Puss in Boots, it's still great animation, but are we not doing the same thing in reverse where we're now omitting anything that doesn't look like Spider-Verse?
I don't know.
Because the cartoon saloon's sitting there. Sea Beast isn't getting the love that it needed to, and people were critiquing the animation, and I'm like, I feel like we're stuck on this comic style, which is great. It is fine, and I love it.
Yeah. Well, what I actually think it is that for a while we were in this lull where the Pixar movies weren't hitting, the DreamWorks attempts to copy them weren't hitting either, and it felt like most of the movies in that style weren't worthy of attention the same way that your cartoon saloon movies that like your Studio Ghibli movies that would come in would deserve that attention. I feel like we've been getting a lot of really quality, well-told films that are also kind of big-scale animated movies. So it's just like there's only so much attention to go around.
True. I guess.
I don't know.
Let's not forget Marmaduke to round up the best movies of animation in the year.